On this episode of Let's Talk Cincy, we're in Columbus, talking to the Republican governor one-on-one about the initiatives he's put forward to make Ohio safer, from gun laws and penalties to how school safety and mental health play a role, and trying to answer the toughest question, what's being done to get this legislation passed.
From WLWT, this is Let's Talk Cincy with Curtis Fuller and Alexis Rogers.
The shooter was able to kill 9 people and injure 26 in less than a minute.
We've all seen these on TV, but to have it in your own community and to talk directly to the victims and talk to victims' families certainly brings it home a lot more.
Governor Mike DeWine heard chants of do something when he spoke during a vigil after the Dayton shooting. Since then, he's put out a 17-point plan that includes expanding background checks and establishing what he calls is a law better than a red flag law in Ohio.
I told them I was going to do, everything I could to make it safer for people in Ohio. That's my obligation. We have an obligation to do something.
Governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, says he's trying to stay true to his promise to victims' families of the Dayton mass shooting, unveiling a legislative plan to address gun violence.
We're here with Governor Mike DeWine in Columbus. Take us back to the night of August 3rd, the morning of August 4th. How were you notified? What's going through your mind?
About 2 o'clock in the morning, Tom Stickrath, who heads up public safety for us, called me and told me that there had been a mass shooting in Dayton. Of course, that is your worst fear, your worst nightmare if you're a governor or if you're a mayor. I think about 10 o'clock that morning, I think Fran and I went to church at 8, and then we went over and met the mayor and got a briefing from the police about what had happened. And then the mayor and I and Fran and Sam, who's the husband of Nan Whaley, all walked over together to the Oregon District. The one thing I remember, there's blood. You see how close this guy got to getting into the nightclub building. He's shot right at the entrance point. But I think the thing that struck me the most in Fran was there was a vendor who had a food cart, and he was selling food, and you saw right there he was killed right there. The blood was on the ground. The food cart was still there. Food was still on the food cart. It's just like it just had happened. So.
As you continued to spend time in Dayton and talk to folks in Dayton, what do you remember as people started to process all the things that they were seeing?
Well, people, certainly were in shock, and Fran and I, that night, Sunday night, after the shooting, went to a prayer vigil, and it was right in the Oregon District. It wasn't in some other building. It was literally right there. And of course, people were angry. They had a right to be angry. People were upset. People were mourning. People were wanting something done. In the next few days, Fran and I went to, I think, all the funerals that occurred in Ohio. Several of the funerals were actually out of state, but I think we went to all the funerals. And Fran and I will always remember a young man who was there, and he had asked his father to go out that night, and the father ended up being killed, and just the misery of that son, I'll never forget. I'll never forget. And the other thing that stands out is burying, looking in the casket of a mother, and in the front row is the father and a 2-month-old, 3-month-old child.
And this is coming after El Paso, too.
Yeah, obviously coming up on the heels of El Paso. But, look, we've all seen these on TV, but to have it in your own community and to talk directly to the victims and talk to victims' families certainly brings it home a lot more. I came back that night. And then the next morning, came in and talked to my team, and I said, look, we've been working on a number of different things. We got to speed this up. Let's put this in a package, and let's tell people what we're going to do.
You know, we're going to continue that conversation. We know that people asked a lot, specifically of you, when it came to coming up with a plan on how to deal with this. So coming up on Let's Talk Cincy, we're going to talk about the safety protection plan as well as the governor's plans for background checks.
Anybody can go in anywhere and get an assault rifle of mass destruction, and you're not worried about it until things like this happen. And it happened in Dayton, and it happened to my son and my family.
So we were just talking about what it was like to be in Dayton in that first 24 hours of everything happening. And I can't help but remember what it was like when you were addressing the crowd and the crowd was asking you to do something. And you said, hey, we will come up with a plan. So let's talk about that plan.
We laid out a 17-point plan. I said, each and every one of these parts, I am convinced will save lives. I'm convinced will make us safer. Number two, it has to be constitutional. We have to respect the Second Amendment. And number three, it has to be able to pass in the General Assembly. The truth is that past governors, very, very well-intentioned, have tried to do things, and they ended up with zero.
Is that why you left
zero.
out? Is that why you left out the background check? And
if a criminal wants to steal a gun, we're not impacting that. If a criminal wants to get a gun from another person who's a criminal, you know, no law we pass is going to impact that. But of the guns that are actually legitimately sold, 80% of them go through a background check, and they're sold through registered firearm dealers. You go into a gun store, you go into a Walmart, whatever, and buy a gun, it goes through a national background check. What we're talking about in this whole debate is the other 20%. On one side, people say to me, look, Mike, if I'm selling my gun to my brother, this is ridiculous that I got to go through a background check. On the other hand, the other extreme is if you're selling a gun on the internet and you don't know who this person is, well, hey, you know, we need to be doing something about that. Here's what we devised. It's not a universal background check per se, but we think it really accomplishes it. Currently under Ohio law, it's illegal to sell a gun to someone who is a convicted felon, for example. That is punishable. That is a felony under Ohio law. We up that. We significantly increase the penalty. We increase the penalty to up to 3 years. In addition to that, with our proposed bill, the standard of proof we reduced to negligence. So if you are negligent, doesn't mean you knew, but you were negligent in selling that gun to someone, you can be found guilty and go to prison for up to 3 years. So we've toughened the penalties. At the same time, we've given an incentive for that person to do a background check because the penalty's up. But we also give them an incentive to have a background check, and here's how we do it. We say if you are selling to someone you don't know, and you insist that a background check be done, you insist that that person go into the local sheriff and have a background check and get a certificate that says, I'm clear, and present that to you. If you do that, then you are safe. We are not going to no one can ever charge you with selling a gun to a felon, even if this guy was a felon and the background check for some reason did not show it. So we believe this is going to really incentivize people who are selling to strangers, which is what you worry about, to get a background check and have that background check done. So we think it's just as effective. It also has the advantage that we think it can pass, where we don't think the universal background check could pass.
We're going to continue the conversation on the governor's 17-point plan and why he's gone with the safety protection order over a red flag law.
This is the first time in my career that I have witnessed our state government seriously consider restrictions on access to guns.
Preventing Ohio families from living in fear. Governor Mike DeWine has turned his promise to do something after the Dayton mass shooting into his strong Ohio legislation. We've already talked about expanding background checks.
Let's talk about that plan, specifically when it comes to the safety protection order first. I think that that's really important. A lot of people having questions of what makes this different.
The so-called red flag. And what does that mean for our viewers? Let me describe a scenario that I saw as a county prosecuting attorney and that I saw as the Attorney General of the state. A family has a loved one in their family who has a mental health problem, or they're a chronic alcoholic, or they're a drug addict. And that person has a gun or a bunch of guns. And the family is very worried that this person is going to hurt themselves, kill themselves, or they're going to kill someone else. Now, we've all seen these scenarios. You all have reported this in the news because it happens everywhere. And families today don't really have a good avenue to do something. The law we've proposed will cut down on suicides. The law we propose will cut down on other bad outcomes. And here's how it works. The family can go to the police, and they can say, look, my brother, we got a problem with my brother. We've got a problem with my son. We've got a problem with my father. And we need help. And so what we do is we allow the police to make an assessment themselves, and if they make an assessment, they then can pick that person up and take them involuntarily into a hospital. They have to be evaluated. Somebody who is an expert in this area has to do the evaluation. Then it goes to the probate court, and it's due process. Person has a right to show up. A person has a right to have an attorney, but there's a determination if that person is going to be, or is in fact a danger to themselves and a danger or a danger to others. If that determination is made based on the evidence by the probate court judge, then and only then, two things happen. The person is ordered to get the treatment, whatever that treatment is. On the other hand, the police are then ordered and given a certificate, given an order from the court to go get the guns. It's better than a red flag because we get the person first and deal with the person under our proposal. Under the red flag, we go deal with the guns, and we don't really deal with the person's problems. It's safer for police. One of the most dangerous things is a police officer to have to go in with somebody who's got a gun, who may have a mental health problem, or maybe an alcoholic, or maybe a drug addict, and try to get the gun away from that person. We eliminate that and go directly to, let's get this person help, and then let's get their guns. So it's a process. Is it a red flag? No, it's not. It's a uniquely Ohio plan. We had a horrible tragedy in Cleveland last weekend. A 6-year-old child is at home doing nothing wrong. Some guy goes by and shoots up the house. Not 10 times, shots. One shot hits the child, kills the child. We see that. And so my guess is when we find out who that did it, we'll find out that he wasn't supposed to have a gun anyway. He'd already been convicted of a violent offense. And so what our plan is, one of our proposals is to dramatically increase the penalty for someone who has a gun, who has been, let's start with, who has previously been convicted of a violent offense. Not just any offense, not just a felony, but a violent offense. So it wouldn't necessarily be a drug offense, but if there's violence connected with this offense, then they're not allowed to have a gun under Ohio law. And what we're saying in our bill is we're going to enhance the penalty. We're going to increase that penalty so that judge, if the judge makes a decision, can pull that person out for a much longer period of time. So weapons under disability is what it's called. We have that law now. We would be increasing the penalty. We wouldn't make it mandatory. We want to let the judge make a decision based on the facts of that particular case, why that person had a gun. But I'll tell you, and you can talk to police in city after city, you got a small number of people who are convicted felons, violent offenders, and still have a gun. And if we find them in possession of a gun, if the police find them in possession of a gun, we ought to be able to yank them out, get them tried, and frankly, separate them from the community, and we will save a lot of lives.
A lot of folks have had that question of how is the safety protection order any different from pink slip?
Well, we dreamed it up, frankly, but we didn't dream it up ourselves. We went and talked to a lot of people, and we talked to police, and we talked about how the current pink slip, so-called pink slip law, works. The problem with the current pink slip law is it only deals with mental health. So let's take a guy, and let's say I've got a brother. I love him, but he's a long-time alcoholic. And man, he's drinking, and every time he starts drinking, because he hardly ever stops, he does irrational things. He's got a whole bunch of guns. Under the pink slip law today, we can't use that system. So we have added alcoholic, we have added person who is on drugs and taking drugs. We think by expanding that, we're going to deal with a lot of problems that really can't be dealt with very well today.
Let's talk about schools. There have been so many different instances all throughout Ohio. I know in Cincinnati we felt it in many different ways when it comes to suicide, when it comes to just safety in general. We've even talked to our school superintendent in Cincinnati, and her saying that it's created jobs because it's such a need. We know that there's this center here, but how does it work with each particular school? Are they updated every day when there's a threat? How does it work?
Well, we're just now in the process of putting the school safety center together. It made sense to us that there needs to be someplace centrally located where we can give help to our local schools. So we're going to give help to those schools in several areas. One is training, threat assessment. The FBI, for example, has a whole matrix that you can go through if you think someone is a threat. We mentioned earlier in the program the $675 million that we've set aside for our local schools. That goes to the schools. They can spend it how they want to, but they have to spend it in regard to what we call wraparound services. So that could be more counselors. This could be more mental health help. This could be referring a child for mental health help. Again, it's not just the school shootings we're worried about. We've seen the suicide rate among our young people go up dramatically. I mean, I cannot think of anything as a parent, grandparent, more heartbreaking than to talk to a parent, as I have, who has lost a child to suicide. It's heartbreaking. So we believe clearly that this money that the General Assembly approved, that we asked for, will be used and will help deal with the suicide problem. We also have a situation where a school is going to be able, if they've got a child or if they see some threats, they can refer it to our center, and we can do a search on social media. In other words, we can try to fill the rest of the picture out and see what that child has been posting. We're not going in and looking at everybody's social media. That's not what we're trying to do. But if there are key words that are being used, we have the ability many times to be able to catch that and then to drill down and to see what that person is talking about. You know, as a parent, now as a grandparent, you used to think schools were the safest place your child could be for 6, 7, 8 hours a day, and they really were. Maybe not the trip to school, but once the child got in school, you thought, the child's safe. And statistically, that was absolutely true. But today, we've seen enough shootings, we've seen enough tragedies in schools that we know that that can occur any place. We have to do as much as we can to give our schools more tools, more ability to keep our kids safe.
Making people think twice about breaking the law. Coming up next on Let's Talk Cincy, we're continuing the conversation on the Governor's Strong Ohio plan with how he's strengthening penalties on crimes involving guns.
Well, thank you, Governor, for being here today and joining us. People will still have questions, but thank you.
Well, no, I appreciate it. And look, our job is to do everything that we can to make people safe. That's the essential function of government. We don't always succeed. We can't guarantee anyone that there's not going to be further tragedies. but we have an obligation to do things that we know will matter. Those are the two things that we've talked a lot about. One thing that doesn't get much reported, and what I wanted to put in here, and something I've worked on and been thinking about for a number of years, is this problem. In Cincinnati, or in Dayton, or in Lima, or I can go around the state, big cities, medium-sized cities, there's a small number of people. If you take this universe of the criminal element, people who commit crimes, of that element, there's only a small percentage that commit violent crimes. If you can get those people out of the community, you will save a number of lives. And each one of the things we've talked about on the show today will matter. Each one of these will, in the long run, I believe, save lives. Are there other things that we could do? Maybe. But let's go and do the things that we can actually get done. And I believe these are things that we can get done. It's not going to be easy. This is a heavy lift. This is a pretty big package of things. But I have confidence that the state legislature, once they look at the facts, once they look at what we are doing and how we are doing it, I think they'll pass it. So we'll see.
Would you consider this a historic time for us here in Ohio right now when it comes to all of these issues that we've talked about today?
Yeah, I think this is a historic time because, you know, I've said we're going to face these questions. You know, these are uncomfortable discussions. You know, you can tell just by our discussion today. I can tell you the discussions I've had as I've go around the state. These are uncomfortable discussions. But part of my job is to deal with uncomfortable things. Part of my job is to deal with things that maybe we wouldn't want to talk about and we wouldn't want to face. I mean, people have different points of view when you're talking about guns. We got people here, we got people here. I'm trying to pull people together and say, these are doable things. They don't threaten your Second Amendment rights. In the same sense, they will actually do things, and they will, you know, there's a general belief even from people who are adamant pro-Second Amendment and people who don't care about the Second Amendment. There's a common belief that there's certain people should not have a gun. Okay, let's build on that common belief and figure out if we can build a system that satisfies everybody and keeps guns out of the hands of some of these people that clearly should not have guns and have absolutely no legal right to have guns at all.
All right. Thank you again, Governor. That does it for Let's Talk Cincy. We'll see you next week.
And of course, we want to hear from you. Join us on Let's Talk Cincy on WLWT.com on the Let's Talk Cincy tab. And you can also email us at ltc@WLWT.com. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
It's always nice to visit with you.